Good morning. Good morning. I'm Barbara Welsh, a new member of your Board of Trustees. I would like to welcome you who are here in person, as well as those of you who are joining us on YouTube. This will be our annual Partner Church Sunday honoring MLUC's long-standing partnership with the Unitarian Church in Varfalva, Transylvania, Romania. Our worship team this morning is Caroline Bright, our ministerial intern, who's here with us, and Dr. Vincent Craig, our music director. Cathy Cordes, we're so lucky to have her, who is today's speaker. Kathy Landay is our worship associate. Our musical guest is David Brown, a very gifted violinist who incidentally grew up in this church and is a new member. Who we are. Mainline Unitarian Church is a progressive religious community in which our members are bound together by an ethic of love and a commitment to justice. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that all people should be free to navigate our own spiritual growth. At MLUC, you will find sustenance for your spirit, opportunities to live your values, and friends with whom you work toward a world of wholeness, justice, and love. Please visit our welcome table today to learn more about us and our website. I have some announcements, some great news about our pledge campaign. We're more than halfway to our goal of $700,000. Over 100 pledges have been received, so if you haven't pledged yet, please either see Madeline Seiko in the lobby after the service or on MLUC's website. And this is news. If you increase your pledge over last year, your increase will be matched by a special fund. So after today's service in the Greeley Library is UU 101 for newcomers. Don't forget to sign an Easter card for our partners in Varfalva. They're available after the service. Next Saturday at 10:30, Sally Fritzen will lead an Easter bonnet workshop. So contact her for more information. Sounds like a lot of fun. So after the service, join us for coffee, tea, and conversation in the fireside room, which is across the hall from this room where you currently are. If you're new to MLUC, please take a visitor's cup so we can welcome you. And the Partner Church is providing delicious home-baked cookies. We are honored today to welcome Cathy Cordes as our speaker. Cathy is a new member of our congregation. She and her husband, Ron, joined the church soon after moving to the area in 2021, and they are members of the MLUC Partner Church Committee. Cathy was executive director of the Unitarian Universalist Partner Church Council until her retirement in 2016. She began her involvement with Partner Church work through her previous church in the Boston area. She volunteered with the UU Partner Church Council and then served on the board of directors. She was hired as the first executive director in 2001. So from 2001 to 2016, she oversaw services and worked directly with over 120 churches in the US and Canada. And she partnered with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists in Transylvania, Romania, Hungary, India, the Philippines, Czech Republic, Wales, Burundi, Kenya, and Uganda. She has so much experience to share with us today. So please turn your devices to worship mode, that means silence. And together, let's read our mission statement. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith. I'm not finished. I have more to say. Mainline Unitarian Church has meant so much to me and my family since we first discovered our spiritual home here almost 50 years ago. I know each of us has a story of how we discovered and grew in our wonderful congregation, so this is my chance to tell mine. My husband, my 2 young sons, and I first entered the building, our original building, when Reverend Mason McGinnis, our first settled minister, was our spiritual leader. Little could I imagine how much of a difference this church would make in all of my family's lives, especially mine. Over the years, I've contributed to so many groups at MLUC, and I challenge you to name an activity that I wasn't a part of at some point. How many times did I teach church school or mentor a coming-of-age youth? And incidentally, next Sunday is our coming-of-age service. And hearing the credos of our 8th and 9th graders is always such a rich experience. And full disclosure, I am a member of the Partner Church Committee, which created today's service. And I've had the life-changing experience of visiting our partners in Varfalva, Transylvania, Romania. I've known and experienced all of our ministers, all of our staff, and I have such a long time in our shared history. I experienced the fire in 1990 and worshiped at St. David's Episcopal Church across the street for 3 years as they welcomed us while our building was being rebuilt. I've participated in the ongoing holiday workshop where my young son, Teddy, shared his talents and supplies in quilling and origami. And I thank Rebecca Poyce and her committee for keeping this wonderful tradition going. My husband, Dusty, discovered the fountain of youth when he began assisting and advising the Sunday evening youth group, YRUU. After he retired from his 40-year medical research career at the University of Pennsylvania, he said the more he was around the youth, the younger he felt. Now he's always here at MLUC because sadly he died 2 years ago, but he's in our memorial garden. So you can see that MLUC is an important part of my life because of our ministers, our staff, especially our wonderful congregation. They've given so much to me and my family. So now this month is all of our chance to give back. And we have the wonderful news that we're halfway to our pledge goal. And anticipating our increasing energy as we're coming out of COVID and our positive future, I doubled my pledge for this church year because this church means so much to me. We are in an exciting time as we hold our breath, waiting to learn who our next minister will be. We are on the verge of even greater things. Celebrating our past, did you know that our music director, Dr. Vincent Craig, has been our music director for over half his life? So thank you for being here, Vincent. And the majority of those of you who've already pledged, the majority of you increased your pledges. Thank you. And we have a matching fund which matches whatever the size of your increase is. So if you've pledged to support the 2023-24 church year, thank you. If you haven't, please make a pledge this morning before you leave the building. You can't miss Madeline and her crew in the lobby. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can also make a pledge too, you know. You can do that. And why don't you do that before you log off so you don't forget? So, dear friends, Please be generous as we enter this next chapter of the Mainline Unitarian Church's life. Thank you.
It's on. It's on. I just wanted to share with you, I went on the very first trip that we took to Varfalva, and I want to share the purpose of me wanting to go and how it changed me. My initial purpose in going on this trip was twofold. I wanted to discover the roots of our Unitarian heritage, and the trip to a rural village with an opportunity of a homestay and getting to know the people was going to be an adventure. I had been working with Reverend Carol Taylor for 4 or 5 years to make contact with Varfalva. Carol was retiring, and this would give us both a chance to see her vision and dream become a reality. It was also an opportunity to support her as she became the first woman minister to address the Varfalva congregation. It changed me in the following ways. Starting as a journey, it turned into a pilgrimage of sorts that gave me a feeling of roots or grounding and a connection with our Unitarian brothers and sisters, and that I did not have before. It gave me a sense of pride and connection with our Unitarian brothers and sisters for their determination, courage, and faith over generations and hard times. It increased my awareness of another, slower, less materialistic way of life, both positive and negative. It was a trip of a lifetime that reinforced my determination to help those less fortunate than myself, and my gratitude for the things that I have taken for granted.
As we light this chalice, may we open our hearts and our minds to those men and women who have kept the Unitarian faith alive through the centuries, and to all the Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists around the world who share our values of reason, freedom, and tolerance. This little light of mine, we're going to let it shine. All around the world, we're going to let it shine.
I've been to Transylvania on a couple of occasions, so I thought I might share a couple of words about just the first piece that we're going to play together, because I have visited our partner church in Varfalva, but it was through more of a coincidence, because I have a close friend who I met in college. He's a cello player who lives in Transylvania, and my first time there, we basically hitchhiked across the country for about a week, something you don't do here. And along the way, we met a lot of interesting people, some of whom decided to join us when they heard about our interesting decision to visit this remote village of Varfalva, which is about 30 to 45 minutes or so from the nearest major city, Kolozsvár. So we visited our partner church, and later that evening, we were to spend the night in Kolozsvár. And there's a big hill that overlooks the city of Kolozsvár. It's densely wooded. And we were climbing this hill, me and this group of Transylvanian people who I'd met that week. And one by one, in the near pitch dark, each member of this group started to join in singing a folk tune, a hauntingly beautiful folk tune. And I'm going to play the simple version of that tune for you right now. It went like this. And I was struck by not only the haunting beauty of the tune, but the fact that everybody knew the tune and they knew the words. And not speaking a lick of Hungarian, I wanted to contribute something. So I started to hum along and harmonize and create new rhythms. And what Vincent and I are about to play is technically an original piece of music, but it is of mine, but it is very much based on this original folk song combined with my harmonies and rhythms.
The images you have just seen are Unitarians around the world, our partners in faith. While the shape of that faith is based on local interpretation and custom, we do all have common roots. Reverend David Bombog describes it this way: "We are the people," he writes, "whose religion is based on the practice of reason, freedom, and tolerance. Whether we're talking about Unitarians in Transylvania, India, the Philippines, Kenya, England, or New England, whether we're talking about Unitarians in the 16th century or the 18th century or at the end of the 20th century, that is our distinguishing mark, the style of our religious life, a fierce and abiding commitment to reason and freedom and tolerance. And that religious style, which is our hallmark, was created and crafted in Transylvania over 4 centuries ago and is still cherished there by people who have suffered for their faith more than we can imagine. Someone needs to witness their struggle and care about the outcome. If not we, who have inherited their religious method, then who? And if not now, then when? I have had the good fortune, myself, to meet many Unitarians from many countries during my years with the Partner Church Council. My interest is now and always has been connecting people together, and I am committed to the idea of building world community. For the rest of the service, I hope you can hold some of those images in your minds and hearts. Maybe something that surprised you, or maybe a smile, or someone you recognized. It will be a way to invite these Unitarians into our worship today. All are welcome here as we worship together.
Please join us for our opening hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life.
Thank you.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Whose hope we close, leads let me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Speaking of wings setting us free, I'd like to take a moment to draw your attention to the very top decoration along our branches. Yes, those are bats. And those bats are there to honor our partner church, to honor the literal building, because when they renovated it, there were a particular species of endangered bats discovered in the bell tower, and it halted the renovation. So, to this day, we recognize those endangered bats right here in our church. And when bees work together, they are a colony. One bird calls into the wind. One tree grows toward the sun. And when trees grow together, they make a canopy. One voice sings a tender song. And when voices sing together, they make harmony. One instrument plays an unforgettable beat. And when instruments play together, they are a symphony. One mountain rises to a mighty peak, and when mountains rise together, they are majesty. One wave is a surfer's dream, and when waves move together, they are an endless sea. One of us can make a home, and when we come together, we are family. One of us can love with all our heart, and when we love together, we build community. One of us can speak up for justice, and when we speak up together, we create a world of possibility. At this time, I would like to invite our children and youth and their instructors and advisors to head on back to their classrooms.
Jó reggelt. For those of you who aren't Hungarian, that means good morning. And I know this because it's one of the various and sundry phrases that I picked up growing up in my ancestry. My ancestry is Hungarian, so on both sides of the family. And so you can see by my outfit, you know that song, you can see by my outfit that I'm a cowboy? Well, maybe you can see by my outfit that I'm Hungarian. American Hungarian, of course. And I have just a very short story to tell you that authenticizes my Hungarianism. My grandmother, who was Catholic back during the time when meat was not allowed to be eaten on Fridays, had a tradition in the summertime at their lake house that she would host a picnic at the lake, and it was widely attended. The main course was, and I'm going to say this in Hungarian, we would sütni szalona, which means roast bacon, and it wasn't just strips of bacon, it were these huge slabs of bacon that we stuck a stick in and held over the fire, and it would drip, and we would drip it on the bread that we had, huge trays of bread, and then layer onion and tomato and more bacon drippings and sometimes pepper. And when the bacon got crisp, you cut it off and put that on there. It was pretty good. So that was my Catholic grandmother's Friday celebration. It's quite a wonderful memory for me. So thank you for putting up with my story. Our offering outreach this morning, or for the month of March, I should say, is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Usually, our outreach is a local group in the community, but this month we have chosen this group, which is part of our national organization. The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, is an international human rights organization grounded in the values of Unitarian Universalism and the UN Declaration of Human Rights. For over 80 years, UUSC has partnered with communities working to advance human rights and dismantle oppressive systems. Since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, UUSC has partnered with grassroots organizations in Ukraine and Poland to support those fleeing the war, especially those with the least access to aid, such as Black and Brown people, LGBTQIA and plus people, disabled people, Roma people, and the elderly. Because of the generosity of UUSC supporters, UUSC partners have been distributing food, cooking supplies, batteries, generators, lamps, and other necessities. They have been providing free legal assistance and counseling to those fleeing the violence, organizing support for groups who are fighting pushbacks of Black, Indigenous, and people of color migrants. Thank you for joining UUSC and our intersectional grassroots partner in this critical work. The ushers will now come forward to collect your offering. And as you can see on the screen, those of you who wish to do it electronically, your instructions are there for you. Wow, you really give that violin a workout. That was wonderful. So we are at a time of candles of community, and it is the time in our service at Mainline Unitarian Church when we come together to honor and share some of life's precious moments with each other, whether they be joys or sorrows. We place our utmost trust in each other that this sharing is taken in friendship and love. Just a reminder that if you are attending in person, you are always welcome to come up before the service to add your thoughts to the book that we have there. This will then be read during the service. First, we wish to remind you that March 31st is the International Transgender Day of Visibility. So I think we will light this candle of joy for the beauty and blessing of our trans friends and family. For all our trans friends and families, we light this candle. I'd like to include all of the concerns that we have for our world brothers and sisters, which these days seem to be considerable. And closer to home, just yesterday, we had yet another devastating weather event, a tornado in Mississippi, parts of Mississippi. And we also, closer to home, had an explosion in a chocolate factory in Reading. So for all of those who have been affected by these terrible tragedies and those folks who are now in sorrow, we hold you in our hearts. I do have one sorrow that was turned in today. If I can find it. I'm sorry, get it? Where did I put that? I did take the sheet from you. Well, I will just tell you. It is from Liz Bligan, whose husband has an unexpected health situation that has occurred, and they are both. She said that they are at home, and so we will send our blessings to him for a good recovery and send our love. So we hold you in our hearts for Liz and Kevin. And I didn't really receive too many candles this week, so I have included now a piece from our old friend Maureen Kaloran, who was an interim minister here. She says it well. Here, in this space, some of us have come in pain. To those who are dealing with issues of health, we pray, we wish for courage and healing. May we pause and hold gently the concerns, named and unnamed, that are gathered in this room this day. And in the complexities of community, it is right that in this space, some have come with joy bubbling in their heart. May we rejoice together, remembering the wisdom that says joys are multiplied when shared. May we remember gratitude for warmth, thankfulness for sunshine, appreciation for the simple tastes of whatever food our lives and bodies let us choose. So as we take notice of the difficult thoughts, let us remember the good as well. So may it be. Oh, of course, here it is. Our reading today is a prayer which was written by Kinga Reka Zygmunt, who is a minister in Romania. She attended as a, how do you say that, Balázs scholar here in the United States. And she's an interesting person if you like to look her up. She read this to the General Assembly in June of 2000. Source of all life, dear God, we open our minds and hearts in thy presence. We come as pilgrims and strangers, bringing our own joys and sorrows, our own struggles and failures. Help us to be able to leave behind our burdens and fill our hearts with love and compassion. Help us to free ourselves from the ties of disinterest, mistrust, and self-interest, to seek and find the ways of friendship and love. Help us to carry each other's burden. Help us to dream about a bright future, a common future. Let us realize and work for the unity in our diversity, for compassion in sickness, for help in need. We need one another. We need one another's strength, love, and commitment to change ourselves and change the world. We know that we are a part of the same struggling and suffering humanity, yet each of us is unique. Each of us adds in his, her own way to the richness of life and spirit. Let us hold each other's hand, feel one another's fragility, look into one another's eyes, smile to each other. That is the way of our friendship. A friendship not just for those who are here today, but a friendship for far away people whom you might not have heard of. A friendship for men and women and children whose hands you may never touch. But they are here with us, hundreds and hundreds of Transylvanians, Unitarians who seek the bondage of faith, love, and compassion, who seek your hands. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of the bells which gather together our people, the symbolic sound of community, the bells which toll for birth, life, and death, for us, for you, the bells which are the sound of hope, the sound of the future for a troubled land. Dear God, enable us to pray together, work together, and hope that one day the bells tolled not just for sorrow and despair, but for the joy and beauty of life. Amen. And we will have a few moments of silence. So may it ever be.
beautiful piece. It's a long journey from partnership with a small village in Romania to building world community. I admit that. How can you possibly even begin to build world community when the United Nations can hardly agree on major issues? World community seems like an audacious and impossible dream. Nevertheless, it is my impossible dream. Today, we celebrate our partnership with Varfalva. For more than 30 years, this congregation has been connected to the Unitarians in Transylvania. If, as I believe, this represents a building block for getting to world community, how do we get there? What do we do? Where might we be going in the future? Some context and some background might be helpful. There is no worldwide UU institution. In the U.S., we are an association of churches with headquarters in Boston. There are also country headquarters in England, Canada, the Philippines, India, and Transylvania. Historically, engagement between Unitarians in the 1800s and 1900s were official visits between religious headquarters, but there was no effort to involve congregations, the people in the pews, until the end of World War I. During World War I, many of the large bells in church steeples were removed by the Hungarian government and melted into cannonballs. The bells were not simply nice to have, they were the core public communication system in small villages. They were rung on a daily basis in the morning when the cows and goats went to pasture, at noon as a signal for farmers that it was time for lunch. If the bell tolled rapidly, it was a warning. Everyone came running. On Sundays, it rang before church. It was an essential part of everyday life in the villages, and they were lost without them. In 1922, the Transylvanian Unitarian bishop asked the American Unitarian Association to help. A sister church program was developed, and over 100 Unitarian churches were partnered, and U.S. churches provided the money to replace the bells. Then World War II happened. Communication stopped. Once the Iron Curtain closed the border, there was almost no contact. American congregations kind of forgot about their sister churches, but the Transylvanian churches always remembered. At a meeting of the International Association of Religious Freedom in Berkeley, California in 1987, American UU members learned of the plans of the Romanian government to bulldoze many of the Unitarian villages. UUA President William Schultz and moderator Natalie Gobranson organized a team, and in December 1989, they traveled to Romania to protest the treatment of Unitarians. Just a few short days before their arrival in Bucharest, however, the dictator Ceausescu was executed. The communist government fell. When the team arrived in Bucharest, they were met by the Unitarian Bishop Erdo. After visiting many of the villages, Schultz and Gobranson asked Bishop Erdo, "What can we do to help you?" The bishop asked them to restart the sister church program, the program that was long forgotten in the U.S. Upon returning to North America, Gobranson and Schultz invited all UUA congregations to apply to be a sister church. Churches were matched with help from the UUA headquarters. The response was immediate. Here at Mainline, the Reverend Carol Taylor led the response to the call, and you were matched with Varfalva in 1992. The first official trip, as you heard this morning, was in 1999 with Reverend Taylor, Irene Minard, and Barbara Weber. Since then, 65 individuals have visited Varfalva, and 8 Unitarians from Varfalva have visited here, including Reverend Jolt Barabash, who you will hear in our benediction today. Over 120 churches had responded to the call by 1993. The activity by these congregations was remarkable. Here is how UU Minister Reverend Leon Hopper described the activity that ensued. The UUA was surprised, not that churches would be interested in being sister churches, but at the emotional quality and number of responses. The stated expectation was always for communication and global connection, and no one was prepared for the flood of resources, both financial and personal, which were to follow. Involvement with caring was expected, yes, but dollars, no. It was like spontaneous combustion. In the months and years after the initial partnering, there was an explosion of activity. Personal connections were forged between UUA churches and individuals and Transylvanian churches. There were a remarkable number of visits to Transylvania, which quickly resulted in deepening involvement and personal commitments. These partnerships were truly a grassroots movement between ordinary UU adults and children, and they focused on practical concerns. UUA President John Burens once described these efforts as the most enthusiastic grassroots engagement of UUs outside of their own congregation since the Civil Rights Movement. The work of creating new partners and supporting partner congregations needed help from somewhere, but the UUA board was not prepared to support staff time for the program. In order to keep the connection from collapsing, Reverend Leon Hopper, Judith Gellard, and Reverend Richard Bokey organized a meeting of U.S. partners at GA in 1993. Together, they created an independent UU Partner Church Council. It was an all-volunteer organization at its inception. Within 10 years, the UUPCC had designed a network of volunteers and support across the U.S. and hired an executive director. That would be me. The power of the movement was in the network of participants here and in Transylvania. The benefits to both partners were obvious. Obstacles to connections seemed enormous. The phone system in Romania was archaic, translation was difficult, few Transylvanians spoke English, and almost no UUs spoke Hungarian. But churches in the U.S. made new friends by seeking out Hungarian speakers in their communities. And Transylvanians learned English at a very rapid rate. Letters took forever to arrive, travel was difficult, but congregations shared solutions to these difficulties with each other and used the network to spread the solutions. The movement was the main opening in the channel toward freedom for Transylvanian Unitarians, said the Reverend David Geru, former counselor to the bishop. It was the movement through which our first contacts with the free world became possible. Transylvanian Unitarians were given the chance to become open to freedom of thought and spirit. To put it more poetically, our religion got wings. The relationship has given American UUs roots, he added. What American UUs have received is a sense of history, of being connected to the past, and a greater understanding of how our religious and spiritual values are the product of very rich and diverse historic traditions. For Americans traveling to Transylvania offered the opportunity for pilgrimages, those that climbed the hill to David Ferentz's prison cell shared many stories about how powerful it is. The UUPCC organized youth pilgrimages, and every one of those trips included a large dose of history. Here are just a few quotes from participants. 16-year-old Meg said, "I was dubious. Pilgrimage brought to mind the white-clad Muslims headed for Mecca. I was inspired by learning about my heritage, seeing the prison cell where David Ferencz died, going to church that dated back to the 1500s, seeing the rock where David Ferencz spoke, and the church where the Edict of Tolerance was signed in 1568. All of this led me to believe that, yes, this was a pilgrimage, a journey where one learns about their religious beliefs and history and heritage." And here's another one from Emma, 17 years old. "I never realized how deeply I missed having a rich heritage in my church until I found it. I never understood how profoundly that lack of heritage had influenced my dislike for Unitarian Universalism until I discovered that heritage and began to love the liberal religious tradition of which I was a part. These firm roots in the past anchor me to my present faith. It validates Unitarian Universalism for me as a religion. It makes me feel a part of something larger and more concrete. It gives me faith." Aaron, another 16-year-old, "That day as we sat in a circle and learned about David Ferencz, Unitarianism and what it all stood for, I was deeply moved. Before, I was a Unitarian, but I didn't really know what that meant. We do have a past and roots. We have ties to people all over the world. There are many people who have fought to keep our ideas and principles and faith alive, knowing this has made my own faith stronger. In the 30 years since then, the Partner Church movement has continued to touch the lives of thousands of people around the world. For many reasons, including the effect of COVID on travel, the UU Partner Church Council has been discontinued. But the grassroots nature of this movement means that at least some of the partnerships, like that between Mainline and Varfalva, are still there. And we have built connections between our two communities. We have worked and laughed together and tried to learn each other's language. We've been blessed to receive and to give radical hospitality. And slowly we have learned to walk together in respect for our differences and our similarities. We now face new challenges that require new energy, new commitment, and new visions. Opportunity for pilgrimage is still there now that we can resume travel, and new ways of connecting are also possible. Transylvanian students learn English in school starting at grade 1. Villages have cell phone service, computers, high-speed internet. Just as we learned to use Zoom and other online programs during the pandemic, so too did our partners. And these just might be the support system we need to build more frequent and more focused ways of connecting. What might those new ways of connecting be? What if we decide to really get to know one another? Perhaps we start simply, with ways we already know from experience. Maybe we start a reading group and read the same book and discuss it online once a month. Maybe a cooking class where we learn to cook one another's recipes. Maybe a facilitated discussion group on religion, history, current events. How about a facilitated high school group with common themes? Mainline has theatrical readings, and Varfalva has a theater group. Could there be theatrical, musical, or choir performances? What might you like to do with our partners? And what might they like to do with us? What if we eventually go further? What if we decide to see if we can act together to improve our world? What do we all worry about? What are the issues we might address together? Climate change is affecting all of us. The war in the Ukraine affects us all, but our partners are much closer to that reality of it on a daily basis. What if we had regular conversations on topics that affect us all? The economy, the war, climate change, climate refugees. What if we work together to learn about these issues through each other's eyes and together plan on action there and here? Over the past 30 years, we have learned a lot. We've laughed and cried and stepped on each other's toes once in a while. A foundation of friendship and community has been laid. We need to take all of that and add a vision for the possible and create a renewed partnership for the future. Today, it is the image of worldwide Unitarian Universalist community that still inspires me, and you too, I hope. I hope that my work has brought us a little closer to achieving that vision. When we stand together shoulder to shoulder with Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists around the world, we all become stronger and more effective. The values of our faith are ones that are so needed in this world today. We need to join together to support and be of service to one another and to care for our world. May it be so. Please join us in the final closing hymn, Find a Stillness, 352.
Ah.
The benediction is coming from Transylvania, from our partner church minister, Reverend Barabash.
Dear brothers and sisters, may the blessing of God be upon our Unitarian churches from mainline and Valhalla. May the spirit of love be with us as we have our worship together. May our time together be filled with joy, friendship, and mutual learning, as we share our common faith and seek to deepen our understanding of each other's cultures and traditions. May we carry the light of reason and warmth of compassion with us as we go out in the world, seeking to live out our faith in service to all people. May we continue to be inspired by the diversity and richness of our partnership, recognizing the many paths that lead us to the truth. May we be guided by our shared values of justice, equity, and compassion, and may we always be open to learning from one another. May we be blessed with knowledge that we are all one family, united by the bond of love that transcends all boundaries. In the spirit of our Unitarian faith, let us go forth in peace and love. Amen.
You to Cathy and Ron Coates. They've added wisdom and experience and great joy to our partner church committee and helped us in learning not only the idea, but the practice of partnership. So may it be. And thank you, David and Ron. Oh.